Sony's ninth generation console, the PlayStation 5, was released around 2 years ago, going on 2 years ago, to an astounding dud. While the console launch was very successful, most of the early adopters were of the die-hard variety, filled with fanboys and shills who will purchase anything with the PlayStation logo attached to it. And speaking for myself personally, I've been an outspoken critic of the PlayStation 5 long before the console was even announced. And my stance on the PlayStation 5 ranged greatly. From the PlayStation 4's weak and mediocre library across the board to the rapid response by Sony to push out a console before the industry needed a new one on the market, to other things by the time that the console was actually unveiled, such as the design of the console and the overall changes that it brings from the PlayStation 4, which I felt didn't justify the price tag or an immediate response from the consumer base to rush out and buy one at retail. And in the 2 years that the PlayStation 5 has been out on the market, my opinion on the console basically has not changed. And now that I own a PlayStation 5 and I've been playing around with it for the past few weeks now, about 2 weeks, I can declare that the console is not bad, but it's not great either. It's okay. Going down the list of pros.
All right, so right now I have the PlayStation 5 UI pulled up. I couldn't find any results. Silly ass thing. I have the voice command on right now. Sometimes it misreads what you're actually saying, even if you're not telling it to do anything like what just happened just now. Anyway, so starting off with some of the pros of the PlayStation 5. First and foremost, the console is fast. It's much faster than the PlayStation 4. So if I want to go to the PlayStation Store, using this as an example, I go to the store. I'm able to pull up the store immediately without any form of delay. And if I want to go to a specific menu, I can easily pull up that menu again with no delay, and it's pretty seamless. And the same goes for when I'm launching an application. So using my media player application, for example, and so within a minute, I'm already back to watching, a Blu-ray that I have in the system. And for a game, loads within about the same amount of time. So it's much faster. And then when you're in the middle of an application, you can easily bring up a list of options here, including your notifications, music, downloads. You can place settings with your microphone here on the controller. You can adjust the level, and there's different things that you can do with the sound, which is the output of the controller, the media volume, and whatever the output device is. In this case, it would be my TV. And so I am back to the main menu right here. And you have two different areas. You have media, you have games. So they've made it pretty simple while at the same time keeping it close to what the UI for the PlayStation 4 was. The only thing I really don't like about the UI is the fact that, similar with the PlayStation 4, everything is in these long, it's like a long row of different applications. You can go to a media library and scroll down to have, everything that's available, have access to everything that's available. And everything is separated. So you have your console storage, whatever applications is on your console storage and whatever is installed to extended storage. And all this is like my PlayStation 4 stuff. So it's pretty easy to use. And they kept it very similar to um, the PlayStation 4 UI, yet again. However, the folders are missing. So you can't put applications inside folders, separate folders, and separate everything to make everything more consistent. So regarding the speed and of which applications launch, the seamlessness of being able to go into an application, be it the PlayStation Store, a game, or a Blu-ray or a DVD, whatever the case is, all of that is very rapid. The actual sound of the console itself is pretty quiet. It's much more discreet. It's much more of a discreet console sound wise, as far as the fans running and what have you, compared to the PlayStation 4. Whenever I turn on my PlayStation 4 and I launch a game, it sounds like a leaf blower. The PlayStation 5, as of right now, doesn't have that issue. Not that it's completely silent, you can still hear it. You can still hear the fans running, but it's not obnoxious. It's not unbearable. So that is a huge improvement over the PlayStation 4 immediately. I can't do that yet. For a list of suggestions, say help. Yeah, stupid ass thing. Um, so as far as settings go, all of the settings are basically the same. You have, your accessories, screen and video, sound storage system, parental controls, network accessibility, a user's guide, and some other information there. Notifications, captures, and broadcasts. You do have a new command with, or new system with voice command. I'm not sure if this was a thing on PlayStation 4 or not. I don't believe I ever saw that option on PlayStation 4. But yeah, you can enable voice command, which this thing has been misreading my voice throughout this entire recording thus far. But I'm gonna try and do a demonstration real quick as far as that goes. Hey, PlayStation, go to PlayStation Store. I found these for you. Which one do you want? Go to PlayStation Store. Okay. Hey, PlayStation, go to Media. Okay. So that's basically the way that works. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. When it does work, it's pretty reliable. When it doesn't work, it's just annoying and frustrating, and you don't really want to deal with it. So those are the major updates with the PlayStation 5. Obviously, there's been graphical updates and whatnot, but this is not a gaming PC. You can't set any graphical options in game other than if a game has ray tracing features. You can set like a performance mode or different varying modes as far as what the console actually prioritizes, be it graphics or performance. But none of it is, you don't really have a great deal of control over that sort of thing, again, because this is a video game console, it's not a PC. Other updates that is a welcome change. The best part about the PlayStation 5 is the controller, and I've said this before. The DualSense controller is a huge improvement over the DualShock 4. It has, I believe, it has a slightly enhanced battery life. It's a bigger controller, and I have pretty big hands. This is something that's a neat change for me. The haptic feedback triggers is a welcome change, especially when you're using them for certain games such as Returnal or Ratchet and Clank or Horizon. There's There's a specific feedback that's developed specifically built in game for different actions, whether you're aiming a weapon at something or you're driving a car or whatever, like with Gran Turismo 7. I love the haptic feedback triggers. Not everyone's a fan of them, but I quite like them myself. I also like the changes they made to the analog sticks as well. And apparently they're coming out with the Pro Edition controller where you can like swap out the analog sticks. That's also a welcome addition that they're bringing. Although the Pro controller will probably be expensive as fuck, probably around $150. I'm guessing. If it's any more than that, then it's a ripoff. The best part about the controller is that they have this built-in microphone that you can like turn on and turn off. And you can use that for recording, which is great for someone like me if I'm like recording a video or whatever up on here. That makes things a lot easier. All in all, the improvements of the PlayStation 5 that the PlayStation 5 has brought over to PlayStation 4, it does make the console worth it in some ways. Specifically, the use and the ease of actually using the console has been improved significantly. Now, I'm going to get into the cons, and there's quite a few. So, starting off with the cons, first of all, the transitions between PS4 games, as far as your save data goes, your save progress between your PS4 games and their PS5 counterparts, and there's quite a few of those. They even have a specific menu for those titles. Not everything carries over the way you would expect it to. For the most part, it's pretty seamless. It's easy to transfer over your save progress. But with certain games such as Final Fantasy VII Remake and Spider-Man Miles Morales, you actually have to, in order to carry over your progress from the PlayStation 4 version, you have to launch the game on PlayStation 4, and then in the main menu for these games, upload your save data. You can specifically choose a specific save file and have that uploaded to the cloud. Boot the game up on your PlayStation 5, take out the disc from your PlayStation 4, put it in your PS5, relaunch the game on PS5, and then load your save file from the cloud. And that also carries over the trophies and whatnot, which I will show. Even if you earned all the trophies with a specific game, like for example Mortal Kombat 11, I earned all the trophies for that game on PlayStation 4. When I launched the PlayStation 5 version, it carried over all of my progress and all my unlocks, my costumes, my playtime, everything, except for my trophies. It only gave me like a handful of the trophies, and everything else was like as if I started the game over from scratch, which wasn't the case, obviously. Jedi Fallen Order, when I carried over my save progress from the PlayStation 4 version to the PlayStation 5 version, it basically carried over all of my trophies as well, with the exception of one. There was one trophy that didn't unlock for whatever reason. The recent Resident Evil games that received an upgrade, a visual upgrade, Resident Evil 2, 3, and 7. All of my trophies carried over from the PS4 version of Resident Evil 2, including the Platinum trophy, with the exception of one. There was like one, it was the Ghost Survivors DLC stuff that didn't carry over. Resident Evil 3, everything carried over. Resident Evil 7, all of my save progress, similar to Mortal Kombat 11, my save progress carried over, but only about 40% of the trophies that I had unlocked carried over. And I had Platinum this game on PlayStation 4 and I earned like 50 out of 59 trophies for that game on PlayStation 4, and a lot of that didn't carry over. So it's very sporadic as far as what carries over and what doesn't. My save progress for Horizon Forbidden West, that carried over. My save progress carried over, and my trophies also carried over. That was pretty on point as far as that goes. And just to show some of the stuff that did carry over as far as my trophies go. So this is the PS5 version of Miles Morales that carried over. Everything except one trophy, as I mentioned before, with Fallen Order, that carried over. Final Fantasy VII Remake, everything carried over except for the because this is the Intergrade edition, and I haven't played Intergrade on PlayStation 5, so that stuff didn't carry over, obviously, because I hadn't played it on PlayStation. But all my progress and whatnot from the PlayStation 4 version did carry over, which is why I have that 100% right there. Resident Evil 7, as I also mentioned with that, most of my stuff did not carry over. Only a certain percentage carried over, and I'm not really sure why that is. Yeah, that's a bit disappointing. Then Resident Evil 3, everything carried over, and then Resident Evil 2, everything carried over again except for the Ghost Survivors DLC trophies. Other examples, Mortal Kombat 11. Actually, nothing carried over with Mortal Kombat 11. Okay. I'll have to take a look into that, see if there's anything I can do about that. But yeah, not everything is seamless. But yeah, for the most part, from the transition from PS4 to PS5, everything does, for the most part, carry over from game to game. However, there are other things that really bother me, such as, for example, Ghost of Tsushima. If I want the director's cut edition, I don't get the director's cut edition for free. I actually have to. I would have to pay for the game via discount. Like if I put in the disc right now, it would give me a discount for half off, but I would still have to pay that $30, that extra $30 or whatever it is to get the director's cut edition. And that's complete bullshit. I should just get that for free since I already bought the damn game. Because when I put my disc in for the Final Fantasy VII remake, that did give me the option to download Intergrade for free. So, like I said, it varies from game to game, but everything should be pretty consistent as far as the transitions from PS4 to PS5 goes, and not everything is. So that's a con to me. But that's a smaller issue. An even larger issue is your storage. This is a huge problem, actually. So the PlayStation 5, I believe, has around 800 gigabytes for the SSD that's in the console. And so after you boot up the console and you go through your settings and everything, you have about 600, 667 gigabytes, give or take, that you can use for storage. And that space goes very quick. It's not very reliable at all. That means you're going to have to purchase a secondary, storage unit, which would be in the form of an external hard drive. And the problem there is that you have to go and spend more money, which is obviously Sony's intention. Now I have an external SSD, or excuse me, an external hard drive, but this external hard drive is for my PlayStation 4. I could format it and potentially use it for the PlayStation 5, depending on if it's compatible with the system. And I believe this is compatible with the system, but I have certain things up on here that I don't want to get rid of, specifically PT, which is no longer available on the PlayStation Store. So I don't want to format the drive, otherwise I lose PT and a bunch of other things that I don't feel like re-downloading. So I would have to go out and spend extra money on an extended, hard drive to put PS5 games up on the new hard drive, and it's just not really worth me doing that. I have the money, I can go out and do it now, but it's not something I'm looking to do. So the storage is a huge problem. I think that's one of the worst parts about the PlayStation 5. Another thing is the actual design of the console itself. Some people actually like this design. It's kind of grown on me a little bit, but the problem really is the overall size. The PlayStation 5 is it's too big. What the fuck? Okay. Yeah, the console itself it's too big. They have this stand or whatever that came with the console, and the problem there is yeah, there's not really much that you can do as far as the way the console itself sits. It was obviously designed to stand like vertically, but yeah, the console is simply too big, and I have it standing next to PS3, the original fat PS3, and the PS4, which is the smallest of the three. So the design itself is Sony going backwards instead of forwards. And then if you buy the disc base unit, which you would be a fool not to, yeah, it has this huge bulge right here because they had to fit the disc base unit in there. And like I said, I'm not really big on the actual design of the console itself. It barely fits under my entertainment center right here. As far as anything else goes, there's the actual games, which is the last thing and the most important thing. So right now, there's only two games that are worth buying on PlayStation 5, in my humble opinion. The first is Returnal, and the second is Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. Now, I did a video on Returnal last year, and I just uploaded a retrospective for it recently. I think it's a decent game, personally, but I understand that it's a game that has a very niche audience. It's not directed at a casual audience whatsoever, and as a result, most of the people that played it dropped it before completing it. That's actually sad because it's actually a rather short game. It's not too long. If you don't like Returnal, then really all you have at the end of the day is Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. And if you've played one Ratchet and Clank game, then you've really played them all. What I've played of Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart is great. I've enjoyed the hell out of it based on what I've played of it thus far, but it's not, it's only one game. Everything else is available on PlayStation 4. Horizon Forbidden West is available on PlayStation 4. Final Fantasy VII Remake originally came out on PS4. Ghost of Tsushima originally came out on PS4, and so on and so forth. So, the question is, are the updates graphically worth, picking up the console for? For Horizon Forbidden West, I'm going to show gameplay footage and then I'm going to comment further.
With regards to the graphics of the PlayStation 5, thus far, it's not very impressive. The leap from the PlayStation 4 to the PlayStation 5 is rather a small window that doesn't really showcase the full capabilities of the system itself. As expected, the PlayStation 5 has only been out for about 2 years, and there's barely any exclusives on the system itself that warrant picking it up in the first place. Therefore, the true graphical prowess of the PS5 is yet to be seen. Upon testing a handful of different games, just about all of which are PS4 games that were ported to PS5 with the exception of Horizon Forbidden West, the graphical changes have either been minimal or basically non-existent. Games, for example, such as Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, or the Resident Evil remakes, or Mortal Kombat 11, the changes in graphics have been extremely minute from the PS4 to the PS5 version, which is not surprising considering these are just last generation games that have been upscaled for the new system. But all the assets that are there are still PS4 in nature, so I wasn't expecting much. There is a noticeable difference with some games, such as Spider-Man Miles Morales, which definitely has a more cinematic feel to it with the ray tracing features on PS5 compared to the PS4 version. The same could be said about the Final Fantasy VII Remake, which as far as I could tell, that was the biggest change. I noticed a big difference in resolution. The PS4 version of the game is much darker, and in certain areas the light just dims for no reason. Whereas in the PS5 version, everything is much more vibrant in nature, and the background images are much sharper and set at a higher quality in terms of detail. Obviously, Horizon Forbidden West would be the best example right now to see what the PS5 is somewhat capable of when it comes to graphics. However, if you do not have a 4K TV, you're not going to be able to see the full capability of what the system can do on an intense level when it comes to like the ray tracing effects and HDR, which is not available if you don't have 4K TV in the first place. All in all, with certain games, you can see the difference, but it's nothing to write home about. It's nothing to brag about. It's nothing to really get excited for. And it's probably going to take a few different games before we'll actually see what the major differences are. I'd say once we start getting the PS5 only titles, that's when we'll see the major differences between both systems. But if you're not a graphics person in the first place, considering every major development studio has access to realistic graphics at this point, then the graphics really aren't a contributing factor to begin with, which degrades the PS5's relevance by quite a wide margin. So herein is the big question, because I've already gone through all of the important information with this system. Yes, the PlayStation 5 is much more powerful than the PS4. Yes, the PlayStation 5 is a lot faster than the PS4. Yes, the PS5 has a far better controller than the PS4. And yes, the PlayStation 5 has a lot of potential. But when you go out and spend hundreds of dollars on a piece of hardware like this, you expect immediate results. And right now, if someone were to ask me, is the PlayStation 5 worth it? My answer would be no, it's not. At the end of the day, a system like this can have all of the upgrades in the world. But what it's going to be judged by is its library, its software library. And the software is simply not there. Most of the games that I even covered in this video alone are just PS4 games that were upscaled to PS5, most of which have diminishing results in that you can't tell what the difference is between the PS4 and the PS5 version because there isn't a huge difference. Right now, the PS5 does not have the software library to justify going out and spending hundreds of dollars on the system. And I've been saying that for a long time, since before I even had one. Since the damn thing came out, I've been saying that. And I'm still saying it now because it's the truth. I'd say for those who don't have a PS5, but you're on the fence, I say you should wait at least until Spider-Man 2 comes out, which I have no doubts that game will be fantastic. But once Spider-Man 2 comes out, then you'll have more of a reason to go and spend money on a PS5. But right now, it's just simply not worth the money. It's not worth the investment. And with Sony bringing more of their games, more of their exclusives to PC, that only further augments my argument that the system just simply isn't worth it. So, so that's the conclusion that I arrived to with the PS5. It's a decent system. Right now, it's just simply not worth the time or the investment until other games are inevitably released for it. Some of which will come out this year, some of which will come out next year. But there's not really anything on it that's truly worth the money right now, unless you just have a surplus of money to spend. Then at that point, whatever you do is on you. But most of these games are coming to PC anyway. I'd say if you have the money for a PlayStation 5, you may as well save up even more and just invest in a strong gaming PC, be it a desktop or a laptop, one of the two. Because at the end of the day, a video game console is not going to be a PC. Even if that PC is less powerful than the PS5. The pro-consumer options when weighed against, each platform heavily outclasses a video game console. And that's not going to change.